We're in a really exciting space that some people don't even know exists. It's called the Wolfson Gallery, and it's up on the second floor of the National Theatre, it's where we've got an amazing costume display for people to come and see. It's a free display, which is fantastic. We decided quite a while ago that it would be really great to celebrate the craft and the expertise of the costume department, and that started with the idea of producing a book, which we have done. And out of the idea of forming the book came the idea of actually could we put some things on display so that people could physically come and look at what we do, which I think is so much easier to be able to look at things up close, up personal, even be able to touch things and have a go with things, and so that's what we've got here today. To feature follies in the exhibition was really important to us. A, because actually it was quite recent, so for us it had been a fantastic show to work on. Vicky Mortimer, who is the designer of that, is just so passionate about costume. But also it was a really big challenging show for us to work on. It was one of the biggest shows that I've worked on here in 20 years, and the detail that was into some of those costumes was just amazing. We obviously spanned quite a few different periods. We went back to some of the original Follies girls that were dancing, but we also obviously had the more up-to-date 1980s when it was set for the actual gathering of all of the bringing back together of everybody. So it was an amazing show to do, and everybody loved it. I think in the exhibition itself we feature one of the Follies, one of the dancers, which is great to see the detail of her costume and the headdresses. The headdresses were a fantastic part of something I think that everybody equates to Follies. Everybody thinks of the headdresses when they think of that, and it was so brilliant for Ruben and the costume prop team here at the National Theatre to be able to work on those, as well as some outside makers as well. We do a lot of work in-house here at the National, but sometimes on a very large show like that we just can't do it. Physically we can't fit it in, and manpower-wise, man and woman power, we haven't got enough staff in-house. So of course there's an amazing selection of freelance costume makers in London and beyond that get involved in some of the projects as well. But we've had so many projects here that have just been inspiring, and it's been great. I think that is what keeps a lot of people here. It's that cross-section of work that we do. You know, I've worked under 3 different artistic directors here, and each of them bring a different approach, do a different look. You know, Trevor Nunn was very much into a lot of the American big songbook musicals and things like that, whereas Nick Starr and Nick Heitner brought very much working with a lot of new writers and a lot of new work. And now we're working with Rufus, who is very much all about collaboration with different theatres up and down the country and taking our work outside of the National Theatre. And each of those bring different challenges. So it was great working on Wonder.land. Katrina Lindsay was the designer of that project, and she brought a side to it that was a kind of slightly make-believe. You know, it wasn't like bringing a reference from a vintage or a period that we were looking at. It was, well, what do we make these costumes look like? And some of that was from her imagination, because it was the imagination of the character on stage. Alice was in this gaming world, and it was all a game, and they could have looked like anything. And that's where I think the skill and the collaboration between the designer and the maker is what makes it a joy, because sometimes the designer comes with an idea but not a definitive, and they will work with the designer, with the costume maker, and the costume maker can bring their thoughts to it. They can bring their expertise of saying, well, how about this, or does this work, or does this look fantastic? Katrina definitely came with the idea, we might look at some of those costumes later, but came with the idea of almost what I think of as being a kind of slightly Japanese look. There's folds, there's curves, there's different textures, it's all about kind of sizing and style and cut on those kind of things, and it's quite unusual. So she did definitely bring that idea to the table, and then it got worked on with the team. There's a lot of maths involved in figuring out those costumes. It was really important. Yeah, I love talking about looking after the costumes, because a lot of people think about the creation of the costumes and then don't really consider what happens after that. And the fact that we even have an exhibition here today is testament to the people who look after the costumes during the run, and our team at the hire department, who amazingly look after those things and make some of these costumes on display here look as good almost as they did maybe 7 months ago when they went on stage. You know, they've often been worn in a show. But yeah, we hand over to the running wardrobe team once the production side is made and completed. It hands over to the running wardrobe, and that comprises of some running wardrobe staff and the dressing staff. So the dressers look after the actors individually or as a team, and they make sure that their needs throughout the run are met. That could be obviously making sure that the costumes are in the right place at the right time, in the side of the stage or in the dressing rooms, and maybe a quick change. They have to help with a quick change, but also noting anything that might need repairing during the run, etc. And then the running teams come in during the day and do that maintenance, do the washing, the ironing, make things look, you know, not necessarily clean again, because it could be that things need muddying again, and making sure that the mud stays on the costume and make sure it looks appropriate for the actual show each night. Transferring things from sketches to stage is kind of like exactly what the workroom and all of the different production elements and department do. Firstly, it starts with a good relationship with a designer. Really, for us to have a designer here working with us in the department, we're very lucky that Vicky works with us a lot, so it's kind of getting inside her head and knowing what she wants. Many designers are really good in that they bring a lot of reference along with their designs, so you can actually see the detail, and it's really good to be able to say, oh, I love the way that fabric falls, or I love the way that pleat is, or that neckline is really great. So from those aspects, it's really good to get down to the detail, but you're also considering who's going to be wearing it. You've got to talk to them. We would usually certainly do the courtesy of talking to some of the principal actors about what we're expecting the costume to look like. The designer would have that conversation along with the costume supervisor, and once we've kind of got that, we will start to possibly go down one of two avenues. We might just cut straight into the fabric and start to get something together to actually get to a fitting stage where it will be at a partially made stage. Or if it's something either incredibly complicated or maybe the fabric is hugely expensive, we might make what's called a toile, which is kind of like a mock-up of something. So we would fit that on the actor first to establish a shape and something that we're all confident with, and then we can move ahead. In making the costume, it's not just making the costume with the beautiful fabrics, fitting it, making it fit. It's also what is the life of that character. Behind me here you can see our exhibition of the textile studio, and the textile studio are hugely important in making a costume look like that character owns it and it belongs to that character. You know, that person may be down at heel and actually, you know, not be able to have something that's brand new, be it bought from the shops or be made by the department. So they will need to make it look like all our clothes do when we've worn them for months on end or years on end and been through the washing machine and a bit bobbly on the edges and all of those kind of things. But equally, if it's something from Warhorse, then maybe it needs to be covered in mud or blood, or, you know, have some tears in it or rips in it. But, you know, where is that battle taking place? What colour is the earth and where that battle takes place? In Warhorse, I think I'm right in saying that we have 3 different colours of mud on the costumes, because the mud in Devon is different colour to the mud in France, which is different colour to the mud in Germany. And that's the kind of detail that those team will go into to actually discover what those costumes should look like. Coming to see the exhibition is a great way to actually see that there are way more jobs than just making costume, which I think is a lot of where people come from. Or designing costume. A lot of people think of those being the key things that are kind of the things about creating costumes. But as we've just said, if you're wanting to go into some of the making side, be that making costumes or costume props, headdresses, or the dyeing and the breaking down and the textile studio things, often those people have gone to college or to university and learnt some specialist skills in those areas to be able to bring those skills maybe at a junior level and work their way up to being a cutter or a senior dyer or something like that. So you would need some skills to be able to do that. Often our people that work in the running wardrobes have often done degrees as well. They might have started out doing drama, or they might have started out doing costume. Either way, they've certainly got an interest in costume. But those people are at the sharp end, and they're on stage, you know, with those quick change. Somebody misses a page on stage of the dialogue, and that quick change gets really quick, and they have to kind of do something even faster. So if you're a people person and you have a real interest in theatre or costume, it could be that working in the running wardrobe side of things and the dressing side is something that you're really interested in. But looking after the costumes once they're at the hire department, history of costume is something that's really important. We get lots of people coming to visit us to hire things for their own productions or for telly or for doing styling things or all sorts of outlets. And actually having a history of costume is a really, really good skill to be able to have, as well as dealing with the public and people skills as well. So there's a variety of things that we need within the department to make up the whole. Every single person in the department is interacting, be it with actors who are at you know, a really key part. They can be quite stressed in rehearsals, they can be quite tired, and we're asking them to take their clothes off, put a costume on and feel comfortable in that, and we have to put them at their ease. We might be taking them outside their comfort zone in something that they're not used to seeing themselves in. But as we've said, in the running side, you're absolutely dealing with people who are on stage under that pressured environment, and some people get very nervous on stage, and it's making sure that everything is how they like it to be able to deal with, and every actor is different. How they want to, sometimes they don't like to be spoken to, they like to be quiet and in their zone. Other times people, you know, want to have somebody there to take them out of that zone and be, you know, not thinking about what's coming next on stage. So absolutely, you've got to be able to judge the moment and what's appropriate.